He just wrote a piece for the Wall Street Journal called Another Mass Shooting in a Free Gun Zone. Please welcome back to the program the president of the Crime Prevention Research Center, John Lott. John, thank you for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Great. Thanks for having me. I'm going to have to be careful that I text you because as soon as I do these things, I get on the show right away. But anyway.
Well, you point out in your article that Mr. Westman sought out a gun-free zone, close quote, something that we're not hearing from the mainstream media.
Yeah, I have to say it's been something that's frustrated me just incredibly, probably more than anything else, and that is the media goes and has these discussions about these manifestos and diaries that the killers have, but they just will never, ever, ever go and mention that these people continually talk about why they picked the targets that they did. So this killer yesterday wrote in his manifesto, he said, I recently heard a rumor that James Holmes, the Aurora theater shooter, may have chosen venues that were gun-free zones. I would probably aim the same way. Holmes wanted to make sure his victims would be unarmed. That's why I and many others like school so much. At least for me, I am focused on them. Adam Lanza is my reason. I mean, how much clearer can he be that he's looking for gun-free zones as easy targets? Look, anybody who's studied these things, anybody who's read the diaries and manifestos for these mass murderers, know that they may be crazy in some sense, but they're not stupid. They plan on dying, but they want to die and get attention. And they know the more people they kill, the more media coverage that they're going to get. And that's why they pick targets where no one's able to go and fight back, so they're able to go and kill more people and get more media attention.
John, Senator Klobuchar is calling for more gun control legislation, and she wants an assault weapons ban, even though the shooter, of course, did not use an assault weapons ban. What specific law are people like that proposing that would have stopped what happened yesterday?
Well, I mean, the ones that they're talking about are the ones that they normally talk about, background checks on the private transfers of guns. Would it have made any difference in this case? I mean, the guy passed background checks. You know, there's not one mass public shooting this century that would have been stopped if there had been such a law nationally and been perfectly enforced. You know, they also talk about these so-called red flag laws that you and I have talked about before, where simply, you know, somebody writes a written complaint, a judge just sees the written complaint, and based upon that will take away somebody's guns. No hearing there. When there eventually is a hearing, maybe a month later, you know, you have to provide your own lawyer, which could cost like $10,000 or so. And the only thing that they do, though, is take away a person's guns. So they're usually used because people are suicidal. Well, is this the only way? If you really believe somebody's suicidal, is taking away their guns the solution? There's no other way for them to go and kill themselves, or no other way for them to go and kill other people that's there. But look, the point is, Minnesota already has both of those laws. Mm-hmm. And as you say, you know, I wish the media once in a while would go and ask them, okay, would it have stopped this attack? Would it have stopped any attack this century? You know, so anyway, but the media doesn't ask them those things. They just let them prattle on about these things. Look, I want to stop these attacks, but I want to do something that actually works. And if you read the diaries and manifestos time after time after time, even though the media refuses to cover it, they explain why they pick the targets. And they pick the targets because they want to go to a place where their victims can't defend themselves so they can kill more people. And so, look, they want to get attention. I suppose one could get rid of the First Amendment and rewrite it. I'm not for that. I don't think that's necessary. What you have to do is make it so somebody is there quickly in order to be able to go and stop the attack. Because if you can convince them, if there's a sign in front of the school that says, rather than this is a gun-free zone, say, you know, select teachers and staff at this school are carrying concealed, so the attackers don't know who it is that might be able to stop them. And you know, having a sign like that, I think the evidence is pretty clear. Look, we have over 10,000 schools in the United States that have armed teachers and staff. Many schools have had this for decades. There is not one single attack that's occurred during school hours at any of those schools where somebody's been killed or injured. All the attacks have occurred at schools where teachers and staff are banned from having guns. One thing that I disagree with a number of conservatives about is that they want to go and have armed police officers in uniform at the different schools. And the problem I point out is, think of it this way. We have air marshals on planes. Do you think air marshals ought to be in uniform? I assume not. Nobody that I know says that air marshals be in uniform. And why is that? Because if you put an air marshal in uniform and there happens to be a terrorist on a plane, who do you think the terrorist is going to go after first? Because he knows the only person he really has to worry about is the air marshal that's there. Well, it's the same thing with police. We need to be thankful for the incredibly dangerous and difficult job a uniformed officer has. The attackers have real tactical advantages. If you have a uniformed officer and somebody's going to shoot up a place, they can either wait for the officer to leave the area before they attack, or they can move on to another target themselves. Both of those make it less likely that uniformed officers are even going to be present when the attack occurs. But if they do attack there with the officer, who do you think they shoot first?
Yeah.
If they think he's the only person that's armed, and we just finished a study that looked at active shooting cases in the United States, civilians, because of the tactical issues we just talked about, with concealed carry permits, actually stop more active shootings than police, because the guys don't know whether the permit holder's there before they start the attack, so they're likely to be on the scene. But even though police are stopping fewer attacks, they are 7 times more likely to die in the attacks than civilian concealed carry permit holders are.
My guest has been John Lott, the Crime Prevention Research Center. Crimeresearch.org is the website. The article he just now wrote is called Another Mass Shooting in a Gun-Free Zone. It's in the Wall Street Journal. John, as always, thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you for being there, Larry.
You got it.